Welcome to episode 175 of Sports Geek. On this week's episode, I chat with Aviv Arnon on how WSC powers a lot of the sports social media videos that you see.
Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host who is ready to start working with you, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. My name is Sean Callanan, and you are listening to Sports Geek. And I am both a podcaster, but I am ready to work with you. More on that later. You're listening to Sports Geek. If you are doing so for the first time, thank you very much. You might be doing it on your favourite podcast platform. For those who have listened before, they know mine is Pocket Cast, but we are available on iTunes, Google Play, and all good podcast platforms. As always, you can contact me, Sean at sportsgeekhq.com or at Sean Callanan on most social media platforms. This week, I was lucky enough to have Aviv Arnon from WSC Sports stop by the Sports Geek office in Richmond to discuss what WSC are doing in the space and how they're revolutionising, if I can say that correctly, how sports videos and sports highlights are getting published on social media platforms, and especially with the NBA, and he's got a bit of an announcement in the interview. So here is my chat with Aviv Arnon from WSC Sports. Very happy to have a good friend of mine back in Melbourne here at the offices of Sports Geek. Aviv Arnon, have I got your name right? I always try to correct myself.
Arnon.
Yeah. Arnon, who is the co-founder and VP of Business Development at WSC Sports. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you're back. Last time you were here, we went to a match at the MCG, and we pretty much geeked out about fan engagement and video the whole time watching the game. I wanted to, and we wanted to organise a time to catch up. So I'm glad you're back, and glad you're back. So first of all, tell us a little bit about WSC.
Okay. Thanks, Sean. Really good to be here. Last time you really taught me a lot about Australian football, and it was a great experience to be to learn from you. Okay, let me tell you about us a little bit, a few words. We're an Israeli company based in Tel Aviv, and we developed a unique technology that automates video highlights for sports rights owners. So we work with leagues, with broadcasters, anybody that has sports rights to help create content and engage fans and really maximize how you use video.
So I think if you go to WSC Sports on the internet and you check it out there, it actually says on your website, maximize sports content with auto magical video solutions. So what we want to do in this podcast is see how much of that auto magical we can figure out and have people understand it a little bit more. So take us, before we get into that, I want to know a bit more about you and your team on how you got into this space of analysing video, analysing sports highlights. So you're the co-founder. What was the background of the team? Where did the genesis of the idea and the product come from?
Okay, so we're four founders. We started this back in 2006, actually. So we were all back then in the army, I was in the Israeli Air Force dealing with video systems, research systems like analyzing video footage for other things. Yep. Me and my co-founders, we were at the university together first. So the Army has a project that they send kids first to the university. You get trained as an engineer, and then you come to the Army to be an engineer. So we were there for 7 years. But we started talking about what's next, like what do we like? And we're all like sports fans. Two of my co-founders were like basketball players and coaches as teenagers. And we came up with the idea first of helping to train a team. So it started as a scouting solution. So
to analyze the video on the arc of your shot and the placement of feet and the snap of the wrist, that kind of stuff.
Finding patterns, helping the coach do the scouting and train the team for the next game and create the video briefing. So basically it was analyzing the last game of your opponents, seeing their weaknesses and training for the next game, and also finding your own mistakes and improving for the next game.
So as a coaching tool.
As a coaching tool. So it was a software that helped the coach analyze the game, create a video briefing. We started to sell that first to the Israeli national team. Like we gave it for free to the Israeli national team. Just worked on it for a couple months, started checking the market. Then we worked with the Israeli champions, Maccabi Tel Aviv, and started to try and expand from there. So we worked with the entire Israeli league, and then moved to football a little bit, soccer.
Yep.
Started to do a little bit of that. And we were doing that for almost 5 years, but it was what we were doing at night. We were still actually engineers in the army, but doing that.
Your side hustle.
Exactly. And as fans, it was really exciting even to be there, to be part of that, meeting all those coaches that you grew up on. But when we came out and we said, okay, how do we take this to the next level? What are we going to do from here? Do we go and look for a job, or are we going to really make this big? We took it and created this twist to take it to the media, basically.
So you've made what is commonly known in the startup world a pivot. You've gone from the coaching, professional services, high performance, how to train type of space to the sports rights holders, the media rights holders. And so timing wise, what year is this? Because 2006.
It was 2011.
2011, like the media landscape changed vastly from that time because, I know here in Australia, 2006, the amount of coverage that NBA games were getting in 2006 compared to, the access that digital opened up. Was that one of the reasons you sort of looked at what the media players are doing and what the sports rights holders were doing with the content they had? Yes,
we figured coaches, first we were training a coach on our system for a few months, then he got fired, you need to start all over. Because it's a crazy... it's a hard competitive market that we learned that we're actually competing with tracking systems in the stadium and all that just our software maybe would not be as good to the use cases, the various use cases of coaching. But we learned what can we do for the fans and how can we really find a unique capability to bring into the market, and we learned how big is the media landscape and what exactly we can offer there,
So what was the first foray into that media space?
Okay, so we started in Israel with the Champions League.
Yep,
and we did this fan engaging interface for fans to be able to look for particular plays in the game and compile video packages themselves manually.
Yep.
And that was enough just to get some investors interested, not to make any money or anything like that.
That was effectively almost your minimum viable product to say this is a space that fans are going to be in, that they want to be involved in, but also the media rights holders want a part of.
Right. But we were building something for fans, but as we evolved, we understood that with the rights being so restrictive, you can't really offer an out of the box thing for fans. You got to work with the rights owners to offer it featuring their brand and letting them do it their way. So it kind of evolved from there to become an enabler to do whatever you want with video, not limited to one particular use case.
And effectively, the deals that were in place pushed you back to the rights holder because they held everything. They held all the cards. Whatever you did, they would have said, "Oh, you got to talk to the rights holder. If the rights holder is fine with it, then we're fine with it."
Yeah.
So you thought, well, rather than keep going back to them and knocking on the door, you thought, well, our product should be for them.
Right. So after getting the first seed money, started traveling to around the world and showing what we've done. This was 2013, and then we went and we got this meeting. We had a guy that helped us set up meetings in New York. We got this meeting with the NBA, and we were pitching what we did for the Israeli Sports Channel, showing different fan engaging interfaces. And we just one word we said in that meeting changed everything. We just said, and we could also set the video to be created automatically.
Yep.
Just as an also, there was no slide about it really.
Yep.
And then the
mood in the room changed just went, because at that point, again, 2013, the crunch that was happening in digital teams and media was the cutting and slicing and dicing of video. The demand for video was going up. Mm-hmm. The resources to be able to put together, cut together highlights was becoming a real pain point especially for the league level rights
Right,
holders.
and customizing it for the different use cases. Like every time you want to do something with video, you actually need to build a new content team.
Yep.
Right. So at that point, one of the NBA product guys, Bob Carney, just said, "Well, what did you say? Did you say you can automate that?" And we said, "Yeah, we can." So,
and so that became AV Gen.
Later on, it became our product, AV Gen. Yeah. So at that point, it was just, okay, if you can prove it, then we're interested. Let's see. And then it took another maybe 7 months of just demos and pilots, then another year of negotiating and like a minimal collaboration, and then now 4 years more of a full-on partnership with the NBA, which is our greatest partner, and really I could speak for an hour about the different use cases that the NBA has for our platform, helping to power what they do with video across their different digital platforms.
So now that we have got the the background story to how you got there, and the NBA being your flagship partner really around the product, and just it's fascinating that one word which may have almost accidentally slipped out in the meeting to say, we can do it automatically, that went it lights up the room. So as I said there, that became the genesis for AV Gen.
Right.
And building that, which is automatic video generation.
Generator.
That's so take us through. You just given me a demo, and unfortunately we're on a podcast, so I can't show you what I got shown. But it's a really amazing product, the way that you can piece together highlights. Do you want to take us through as best you can for the listeners on sort of how it works for the NBA or any one of your other clients on how they go about it?
Sure. So I'll start with a quick description about the technology, and then we'll take it from there to talk about the use cases, AVGen being one of them. So what our technology is doing, like we're using a suite of machine learning and AI visual recognition and audio analysis and data analysis correlated together. So we're basically taking a live broadcast of a sports game into our cloud system and identifying what happens in the video in every moment. So
you were explaining that to me earlier of that you're not just watching the video and you're analyzing what the broadcasters are saying and the volume and the velocity and the cadence that they're saying. They're more excited, so it's a more exciting play. So as well as the graphics, as well as what the stats feed is coming in. So you're not just analyzing the video and thinking, that's a Steph Curry 3. You're validating it with the crowd noise, the commentators, the stats, and bringing all that in to be able to mark all these events in the video.
Right. And these are all, like, we're getting all those different indicators in the video. So every sport is being produced in a certain way. So we know to be looking for different graphics and cues on screen, but also then scene changes and close-ups and replays are all things that are happening on the broadcast, and there's our visual indicators for us, because ultimately we're not just pointing to a moment in time when that 3 went in. Our system creates a clip out of it. So you need to find the start time and the end time for when that play started. Actually, if that 3-pointer started from a set game, or if it started from a fast break, from a rebound, or from a steal, you'll want to probably start that back then. And then when exactly should it end, making sure you don't cut the commentator in the middle of a word if he says, "What a crazy duck."
Yep.
You want to...
Perfectly done. That wasn't an edit by James. That was perfectly done there by Aviv. So you've got one of effectively this technical architecture that you roll over the video and all the data around it. We'll talk about the different sports that you're now doing. What has been the transition when you've got basketball and you've got it down now, and then going, how does that work for a different sport? Because you're supporting different sports now, in the product. What's the process of you learning? Because it's as much as how it's broadcast as anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, it's how it's broadcasted and what the data is and what's an event. So on top of that, we didn't touch that. After you break it down, let me describe more of the flow. You break down the game to individual events. Then what our system can do is we can pull those events by player, by team, by action, and by rating. Our system actually gives a rating of how great that play was. And then if you're using AVGen, for example, you can set rules and thresholds that will trigger the creation of video packages. So a complete edited video highlight based on a certain topic. It can be a player highlight. It can be the game highlight. It can be just all the dunks of the day. And then pick those moments, stitch them together with transitions, with replays, with graphics that we overlay, really editing it as if an editor sat for a couple of hours and created that video. And it's all based on preset determinations. Now, if you do a different sport, you'll need to know what's an event in that sport, what's a highlight, what should the system be looking for. There's a different logic to how you compile a highlight, and for also analyzing the footage itself to take the different cues that you have for this sport to identify when to start and finish a clip and how to rate it. So there's a process of teaching the system all these logics that we maybe, like, once you learn the game, like for example, we just did cricket, so I personally had to learn cricket just to understand what the system should be looking for. But so you want your system to start having the fan's eye almost, and understand, well, that's a good shot, or that dunk is better than that dunk, right. And part of it is the noise in the arena, what the commentator's saying, all of those things that can rate. Two dunks aren't equal. If one's just a simple putback dunk, that's a 2 out of 10, and these are my rankings, not your rankings. Yeah, no problem.
But if it's a 360 and the crowd and the commentators going bananas, then it's a 9 out of 10. And so when those highlights have generated, it's going to cherry pick the best ones. But again, based on what you've said, I want all the best threes, or I want all the best dunks. It pulls it together because you've got that data there.
Exactly. And you can specify how long should the video be if you have a certain rights restriction limitations, or you can say, show me just a highlight of the Australian players, and then let the system create highlight of the Australian players and send it to the Australian market. So so that's how AVGen's doing it.
Yeah, and that's something that the NBA is doing, sort of to push their global content strategy, to make sure that there's content being produced for all the specific international markets. Right. Generated out of AVGen.
So that's a great commercial use case for them. They have all these international players, and they're tapping into all these fan bases that are actually looking to follow those particular players. And we have a great example of the same night that Steph Curry had 53 points. Rudy Gobert, who's a French player, had 6 blocks, but he had double the views for that video in France versus Steph Curry. Now, on the global basis, Steph was the big story that night, but for the French audience and the French fan base, that video was even bigger, but the league would not normally even have the capacity to notice and to create that content specifically for that market. Go ahead. I wanted to jump back to your question about different sports, though. Yeah. So we do take 6 to 8 weeks normally to train the system on a new sport, looking at what data exists, how does the game look, what exactly is interesting and exciting. And we currently already have the system supporting 9 different sports and starting to work on number 10 in the next.
So what are the sports you're currently supporting?
Okay, so there's basketball, soccer, tennis, American football, golf, hockey, surfing. We do WSL, and as of 5 days ago, cricket. So we just started with the Ashes.
You just started with Cricket Australia. Yeah. So for those who are listening overseas, Australia are playing England in what is known as the Ashes. We've had a few cricket guests on previously on the podcast. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how your technology gets applied to cricket. As far as obviously the easiest one is, hey, you've missed a wicket, missed an out for our baseball fans, that kind of thing, and how quickly that
pushes you back to your app if you went out from the stadium, even just to catch up with the game. Yeah.
Yeah, so AVGen is the automatic generation, so it's getting that content out, and we've discussed a few times the rules around how you can set when you can do things like when Steph Curry hits three threes in a quarter or gets 25 points in a quarter, as he's done twice, and I think in the last week, right? That it can just automatically say quickly put those highlights up and put them up on NBA.com or put them up on
the Twitter page of the Warriors. Yeah.
And so it's those kind of rules that just, again, are automatic. They're going out, they're pushing them out to, the different social channels. And it's something that I've said many times in this podcast, that the speed at which and that the NBA gets its content out, and the fact that it hasn't been overly protective of its content on social platforms has driven its global growth. Yeah. It has driven more tune-in. It has driven more people into League Pass. It's not that's the thing. It's not cannibalizing viewership. It's growing viewership, and it's growing fandom.
Growing fandom, exactly. That's it. Like more people watching it, knowing about it, they become fans, and the NBA is in the business of growing the game of basketball. So that's anybody that's a basketball fan is becoming an NBA fan as well. But I think Cricket Australia is a great example of a governing body that owns their own, that's taking care of their own future as well, and they have like an amazing digital strategy, and they have their own app and their own streaming their own content through that with their own subscription service. So it's a great partner for us to try and help fuel that strategy.
And from the other side of the equation, one, it's great to get the content out quickly. The other part is the commercial aspect and the commercialization of these rights, because that was where the pain point was. Had these rights, pushed them out of digital, weren't commercializing them. What Cricket Australia have done well in that they are producing a lot of content for their commercial partners. Not every single piece of content is ending up on their channels. It's ending up on some of their commercial partner channels with branding and that kind of thing. And so that
can be part of the rules. So basically in our system, you can set when a certain type of event happens, put a graphic of our sponsor, stitch it into the video, and distribute it to a specific destination. So push it to the app of the partner directly when something happens that you've actually an occurrence that you sold. So in NBA, we got a few teams that have been getting sponsors to sponsor specific types of action. So take the blocks. By the Clippers, we're sponsored by Snack Bar Butterfingers.
Yep. So
those clips are stitched with a Butterfinger graphic, going to Facebook and getting all those engagements and reach. Yep.
And so then the other product that's in your suite is Clip Pro.
Right.
So how do take us through what Clip Pro does and how that works.
Right. So we call Clip Pro the sister system to AVGen. They go together. AVGen lets you automate anything, so you can really set the triggers and create thousands of games a night, of clips a night. Like NBA generates this way over 1,500 videos a night. And in Clip Pro, you get access to everything that our backend is actually identifying in the game. So every play is accessible through that. You can filter specific players or specific actions or parameters by score, by rating, or anything you want. And you can then manually fine-tune anything. You can edit and stitch everything together. You can in real time create that content and fine-tune anything also that AVGen has created. You can really tweak it and change it to your liking and redistribute. So it gives the rights owner the full ownership and control of what they want to do with their content.
Yeah, and it just gives you
complements it
because you can just click on all those events. You go that event.
Right.
AVGen's gone and created some highlights. You go, oh no, I actually want this one out, or this one, or I just want to do the square version or a vertical version for different platforms. Right. It gives you that option as well.
Correct. We just added capabilities to help tailor the content to different formats. Also creating GIFs and distributing sometimes to the partner, the actual sponsorship partner, pushing the content directly to their app, in different formats. So there's a lot of options there.
So I feel like spoken to people who both use your product and then want to use your product that go, oh, we'd love to have that in what we're doing, that it just it takes away that pain point, right? So the content now gets in the hands of the fans. Now you get to work on these new ideas and, we've got this product now, we've got these tools, we've got this functionality. How can we use it and work on these new use cases around personalizing what the content you're bringing for the fan? Like, so where are you seeing some of the trends in what teams and leagues are wanting to do in that space?
Yeah, so I think what our platform does today is, to simplify, is like it takes all your content, which is a huge amount of content, and helps you master it. You can do any variation and can do anything you want with that content. But as the years go by, so we're doing more and more sports for us, like growing into different branches of sport and being able to then do all the sports in the world through automated.
Yep.
So you could find any moment happening in every sport content that's happening anywhere in real time. And the ability to then serve it to the fans in different ways is where the future is. Because I think it's already happening, but in a few years' time, if you don't give each fan exactly what they want to get immediately when they want to get it, you're going to be behind. It's not going to be the short attention span of viewers today is getting shorter, and the ability to serve them up with exactly what they want is going to be more and more crucial. So there's different use cases of how you can engage those fans. So we made this, for example, with the NBA, we made this Facebook Messenger bot, which is a great example for you can write the name of a player or team and get that video immediately served to you of their last game highlights or their top plays, and you can then sign up to get alerted whenever they have a new video. And another example that we're talking about is really enabling personalization, really, like to get the video created specifically for you, your own game highlights based on what you want. And one example for that is fantasy. So you have your own roster. These are the players you follow. You want to see their stats. You want to see what they did. Creating millions of different variations for every fan based on what they want to see. Fantasy is a great use case, and we think also commercially that's a really big opportunity. But these two are just two examples of personalization of content. There's more and more.
It's quite. It's almost full circle, because it's almost like you're almost now back to your original use case of getting the fans to make their own highlights. Like, because you're effectively, you could be doing things like, I want to pick my NBA All-Star voting team, and you pick them, and the NBA could send me a highlight of here's your starting five and the highlights and that kind of thing, which is effectively letting the fans build their own highlight video.
You're right, but we just became smarter about it. You couldn't go head on. You can go head on and sell that, but this is where it's evolving to. So it's just a different maybe go to market, but
it's more about that.
Right.
Now that the tool's there, that the media rights holder initially, again, if you would have pitched that type of idea to a media rights holder 7-8 years ago, they would have said no, we don't want that. Whereas now, because personalization is becoming such a big trend topic, to say, people don't want me to be mass marketed to. They don't want mass email. They don't want, don't want to push out the same thing.
Yeah.
And, the nuances of his difference in our global strategy has seen a big uplift. So if I now see only a highlight video just with my fantasy players, or just with the players that I like to watch, if it is just, I want to see Steph and KD, but I want to see some John Wall and I want to see what Reggie Jackson's doing with the Pistons, that's the kind of thing that, and it really does work well for a player fan-driven league like the NBA, because the fans do follow the players, almost in front of teams. I mean, sometimes, I'm sure the
NBA is a big use case like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, so I think that's a terrific point around the personalization and the fact that your tools can start unlocking that for rights holders, and then it comes down to the commercial folk being able to say, this is a value how do we push it out?
So another interesting thing that I'll just mention is as a title, like OTT and subscriptions. There's more and more use cases where we see our capability as complementing live viewing as well, and we're working on with some technology partners that are powering some of the big OTT platforms now in the world to incorporate some of the capabilities in the experience of watching sports. And there's a few different, like even like the NBA Rapid Replay example, they have within their League Pass capability of like pushing real-time highlights from all courts. Think about it. There's 10 games happening concurrently, helping to cover with highlights everything that goes in real time, and then keeping the fans engaged and showing them what they want to get, what they can get from all stadiums, and then have them tune in. So as you said, it's complementing the viewership. And
so, it's really, I think, in the next, 1 to 3 years is how those use cases develop and how different teams implement them. Speaking to Daniel Brew from the Warriors on the way that inside the Warriors app, you get a custom built for you. I want to see all the Steph threes inside the app, which is a really good draw to get people into the app. Right. You were talking. They use that to get people to subscribe. Yeah, so, and if you want to be getting people behind, a paywall in inverted commas, but to get them into a walled garden version of the app, it has to be of high value. So being able to say, "Oh, here's your personalized highlight because you've decided what types of things you want to see," it is of high value. So I think things like that. You're talking earlier before we got started, the way that MLS is using it to really change their game center and bring the highlights to their game center quicker and into their app. They have the rules now pushing content directly to their game center section in their app to help cover the game as it progresses. So, and that's the thing. I think that the real time access to that is the second screen and drives people back to the coverage. It is the tune in factor of if you see that, LeBron is down, but he's about to, he's hit 3 threes in a row, you'll tune in because he's going into beast mode. And it's that, you want to tune in. So it definitely helps for that. So, we think about getting an alert when there was just a buzzer beater that took the game to overtime and getting that video. Like the second thing you do is open the TV, right, to watch it. Well, exactly. You get that push notification. The video can play inside that push notification. You see the game going into overtime. Well, your next step is to open up League Pass or turn on the TV or whatever it is to tune in. So, or click on that notification and tune into the app to watch. Exactly. So, you are here, starting to do work with Cricket Australia. I mean, you've been here a couple of times now. Mm-hmm. What's been your impression of the Australian sports market? Yeah, so we came 3 months ago. There was a conference that we now work with the Cricket Australia, and a big shout out for the guys there, and Finn and all the digital guys there. They're doing an amazing job. Finn Bradshaw, I want to thank you also for the opportunity. And then also we're working with the NBL and basketball here. Jeremy Lolliger, the CEO, and we've met at NBA All-Star a couple of years ago, and they immediately saw, this is what the NBA is doing, and this is what we could do also in our market. And it's also, it's how basketball fans are consuming. So it's like, and I think Jeremy and Larry have done a terrific job in raising the level of what the NBL is delivering. So, it's kudos to them. Right. And then when we got here, we realized how similar this market, how crazy, sport crazy Australians are, and how similar the market is both from a commercial perspective and the way sports consumption is to the US market, and it's very different in Europe and in other markets that we operate. So we see the big leagues that we work with, and then in the US we work with not only the NBA, with some of the major leagues in the US, and how they're
fueling their digital, but they're retaining the ownership of their digital content to make sure that they control it and they control the narrative.
Yep.
And they make sure that the fans get it the way they want them to get it. And it's very similar here. So NRL, AFL, everybody, and cricket and tennis Australia, they're all, you have your Tennis Australia is another example of like owning your own production. They're the only Grand Slam that is producing themselves so far. Wimbledon is following, but
the appetite in Australia for sport overall is ridiculous. From my office here, you can see the MCG from the window, and the the amount of football teams here. The fact we've got the Aussie Open, as you mentioned, the cricket, and that's going to be here for Boxing Day, and the one days. Big Bash has been a big success in cricket, and you've got Melbourne Cup and the F1. It's it's crazy town, Melbourne. Sydney's just as crazy with all the NRL teams. Yeah, the appetite for both sport overall on TV, but then from a digital point of view, it is following similar trends to the US.
And the maturity of it is like it's very mature, very progressive, very innovative, and looking to what else could you do to commercialize all those opportunities, and that's, I think, is a great opportunity. That's why I think this market is really interesting for us, because it could go faster than the US because it's also like maybe less risk, or maybe like a smaller market, but with a very similar mindset to the US market. So maybe there's things that we could start here even before going to US.
Yeah, I've often said that Australia is a terrific beta platform for the US market. I mean, the fervour and the passion of fans is amazing, and you can test things out in this market with 24 million people. And see that it works, because the fan profile and the consumption of the fans are very similar, and then effectively scale it back. I do tell a story many years ago when the NBA rights were up, that apparently they went and talked to Google before. This is even way before the Turner deal, and Google said no, we don't do sports rights, and they eventually did what is now a historic and very successful partnership with Turner. Yeah. Google came back a year later and they said, well, we're in year one of 5-year deal, which is now 8 years or 9 years old. And then that caused YouTube to Google and YouTube to look at IPL and cricket. And I've always said it makes sense. If YouTube ever wanted to get into the broadcasting space, which it has been trying to do in the last couple of years, they should have made a really big pitch. It's one of the big sports here. It's not like they wouldn't have lacked funds to be able to secure it, because I do think it is a really viable, like I said, the sports, tech and TV beta platform. And, if Google had have figured out how to, cover AFL as an example, or the NRL on YouTube, then they would have been far better served than going after NFL rights, because they would have gone through all those bumps and those kind of things. Yeah. So I think there is a lot of similarities. Obviously, the one similarity that's not there is the volume of population, but you can't dismiss
the structure of the market is similar.
Completely,
also.
Yeah, completely similar.
Like also how you manage the media rights landscape and what exactly you're trying to achieve is very similar. And I know how different it is in other markets. So. Yep. Yeah.
And the thing is, where digital is going to fit, whether it's going to stay attached to the TV rights or whether it's going to come apart and be separated and be retained by the leagues, or it's going to be retained in some partnership. A key part of that is the commercialization, how you can get revenue through those rights, and I think that's where you guys fit in really well.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks.
So where can people find you? How can people connect with you on the internet?
So you can take a look at our website at wsc-sports.com, or just email me directly at aviv@wsc-sports.com.
Okay, we'll put dash minus, yes. But if you're at wsc-sports.com, you'll find him, and you can look up. I'll put a link to Aviv's LinkedIn in the show notes. I'm going to finish with the closing five. Do you remember the first sports event you ever attended?
I'm not sure I remember, but I think it would be the Israeli national team in soccer, football.
Yep. How old would you have been?
I'd say 5 or so. I remember my dad taking me, but I remember a game that was raining, and we all got like Israeli flag umbrellas in the entrance. So it might not have been the first one, but it was somewhere up there.
Close enough.
Close
Now,
enough.
With your travels, going to many games around the world now, pitching the wares of WSC. Do you have a favourite stadium food memory where you've got something that's either the completely decadent, or the other option is something that you just can't go past? Every time you go to a sports event, you have to have this particular food item. What would it be?
So the regular one that I would get in a stadium probably would just be a hot dog.
Yep.
But with the opportunities I had recently to visit like NBA All-Star and also NBA Finals, we got one of our investors is the owner of the Cavs. So sometimes I get to be in the suite, and there's all these cool different pieces of food that are better than what I eat at home. So I don't mind those as well.
Sweet food. Are you going with food in the suite as a nomination?
Yeah.
That's always good.
That's good, right?
That's always good.
Yeah.
What's the first app you open in the morning?
I'd say like definitely it will be my email first.
Yep.
Then maybe catch up with some news or something. But I'll just probably be stuck on my email. I'll probably be 100 emails down.
Is there to follow on that, because it's a strange one when you're in different time zones.
Yeah.
Because especially depending on where you are in the world, sometimes you wake up and there'll be nothing because everyone's asleep, and you're like, this is the best part of the world.
Yeah.
And then there'll be other times where you go to sleep just as everyone back at the office is bunkering down. You wake up to thousands. So
yeah.
Is there other than email? Is there another app that you would go to?
It's also depends when the market is also, because like we're now working with US and Australia and Europe, so there's no time zone for me really. It's really cool. I would say another one would be probably Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just try to catch up with everything.
Yeah, trying to catch up. I'm always on the run.
And is there someone that Sports Geek listeners should follow? Is it that you recommend that you either follow or read or keep to help you keep tabs on things?
So for me, I don't get to. There's no one voice that I listen to. I just a few months ago when I learned about Sport Geeks. I really like your work, but I keep up with like Sport Techie and Sport Cal, Sport Business, like all those different newsletters and what they write about what's up with the sports market. So these are good ones for me to follow.
Is there anything outside of the world of sport that you keep an eye on? Because you're in the right, the entertainment rights space, really.
Yeah.
When we're talking sports, but is there resources in that space that you keep an eye on?
Yeah. So there's no destination that I would say to go to, but I'm looking always at anything startup related. So like investments in tech and the new trends of the big guys, like what Google and Amazon are up to, and trying to figure out how what's the next move of the giants.
Well, because you want to be out watching what the next move, because sometimes the next move is their foot coming down and squashing. They're doing that with a lot of startups. So you've got to be agile enough to be able to say, we're going to move just a little bit to the left.
Sometimes, yeah. But I think now we're in a good position that we're actually starting to collaborate with some of these guys. So they think they know to if they really want to, when they decide to move into to get some capabilities that are similar to what we do, they're better off working with us.
Well, and the thing is, if we're looking at the Facebooks and that of the world, when the NBA is producing so much premium content that's powering so much engagement for so many of their customers, that's why they want to be working with you, because they want to keep the premium content on. So,
right,
you're effectively providing the pipe to the premium content. So I think you're in a good space there. But I completely agree. You always should be, here in Australia, Amazon's about to launch, and talking to retailers and e-commerce players. You've got to be seeing what they're doing in the market, because
they're buying rights now.
And that's that's another big part of the equation. Last one, and we probably just discussed it there. We probably spoiled it. What social media platform is your MVP?
Yeah, so that would be Facebook. I think for us, like, we're actually seeing maybe in some capacity even greater numbers in Instagram. So some things, like, we just like saw some measurements, but the numbers that we get on Facebook are just, I think they're amazing. Like, everything is open through their API also, so they're the ones that we can actually track how our customers are publishing all the content to, and what engagement levels they get. So I would just say, like, we work with the NBA themselves, but then also with the 30 teams of the NBA. So the Warriors, for example, had, just from our videos last year, 292 million views. If you talk about the NBA page, it was 1.7 billion, and it's just on Facebook and just on one of the pages. So they also have the international pages.
And that's the ridiculous part, is that one is effectively what the reach you're getting, and you're getting to those fans, but then these audiences and this data that the NBA is getting as via the content that's being published does make it amazing. I do think everyone that I'm speaking to, Instagram is becoming a more engaging platform. More fans are engaging on that platform. So, I think there's still massive growth in that space. And there's obviously, Facebook's doing its absolute darndest to really push into the video space. And so I think the next, 12 to 18 months in this space alone, like you're saying before with Amazon, what's YouTube's fight back going to be, that kind of thing. I think it's a super interesting space. Video is the leader in, engaging fans. No one's going to lie down and say, okay, you've won. Right. So that's the piece that's going to be super interesting over the next 12, 18 months.
And we're talking to all of them, like Twitter and Snapchat and all of them, like in the US, but there's also in China, for example, we take WeChat and...
Well, that's the thing. I spoke to Andrew Collins, about the Chinese market, and it's its own beast.
Right. It's another world that is as big as the rest of it. So, but take what Facebook doesn't have, for example, their own NBA rights. They need NBA to post it. Tencent, who owns WeChat, they're the broadcaster also of the NBA, for example, if you're talking about NBA. So they're also the broadcaster. So, like, what they could do there could be different, but then go and figure it out.
And the thing is, and this is the bit where we could go on for hours because it does get into, we're rubbing crystal balls kind of stuff to see where it goes. But the fact that, Tencent is now a player, and, the fact that Twitter sort of started the, hey, we're going to pay for sports rights. They've brought Amazon into the equation with the NFL. It really makes for really interesting digital rights discussions that are going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years as these deals start start changing and opting out. It's going to take some real steel by leagues to be able to say, are we going to stop posting on your platform? We're going to treat your platform potentially as a pay to play, like all the other traditional platforms. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, and whether it plays out, and whether the data and the opportunity and the ability to sell tickets is outweighed by the rights numbers. If they can commercialize with other means, then they're happy. I think that's the piece that's going to be fascinating in the next couple of years. I think
now they're getting all these views and all these engagements and all the fans on the platform, but think what they could do also, like with Facebook, you could give, each fan and what that fan may want. And with Amazon, you want them to subscribe. You want to give it to them their way. So the ability to really tailor the meal for each fan, they have the fan and they know what they want. Now, how do they actually serve it to them? I think we're in a good position to help there. So,
well, I think we are too. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast, and I look forward to seeing you down in Australia more often.
Thanks a lot. I hope to be here again very, very soon.
Want to start driving more revenue from digital? Go to sportsgeekcampaigns.com.
Thanks again to Aviv from WSC. You can check out WSC at WSC-sports.com. There'll be links in the show notes to connect with Aviv both on LinkedIn and likewise. I really do like the technology that they're applying. The fact that, as an NBA fan and seeing the content that the NBA is pushing out on all the different platforms has been one of the reasons for their growth. If you've seen me speak before, I do think the NBA's strategy of social media and using social media to push out its highlights has been one of great benefit and growth, especially globally. And I think, if you look at the recent NBA TV rights, they're shown they're going up, which is different to a lot of other leagues. If you look at the NFL and its different approach to social media rights and video rights. So, so thank you to Aviv and his team for powering that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what Finn Bradshaw and the Cricket Australia team do with the technology, being able to get that video out the door fastest wins in some cases in the internet, and AVGen definitely allows for that. So thanks to Aviv for coming in, and looking forward to you catching up again when you're next in Melbourne, and maybe next time when I'm in. Next time I will visit you, potentially. I guess I wanted to close this off, and it sort of goes back to the opening intro that DJ Joel gave, which is, yes, I'm your host, and I am ready to work with you. So often I find I catch up with podcast listeners or people that I've connected with via social, and sometimes I have to tell them that, yes, I'm not just podcasting. So when I'm not podcasting, which I love doing, it's about 3 hours a week, an hour preparing for the podcast and doing the recording, intros and outros like I'm doing right now, an hour or roughly so, interviewing the guests like Aviv and the other 100 and I think probably close to 200 guests. I probably should have checked that before doing this, so I don't do that much preparation. And then an hour or so prepping for the actual interviews. So that's about 3 hours of my week. So what do I do when I'm not podcasting? Well, it's pretty much helping teams and digital rights holders drive more revenue. And so I thought I wanted to quickly go through some of the ways that we go about doing it. And potentially, if it's of interest to you, please get in touch. Sean at sportsgeekhq.com, or hit me up on any of the social channels. More than happy to. One of the ones that we do initially with teams is a content audit, which is reviewing all the content that you're currently creating, and assessing where it's going and how commercialized it is. And normally we find some really good content that the content team's producing that the fans love, that we have not yet activated with sponsors. Then normally we move to a platform review, looking at how you're doing each particular platform. Are you putting the same content on every platform? Are you making sure that your message is framed for the audiences there? And so once we then have a good understanding, and sometimes we just do those single projects, but once you have a good understanding of what content you're producing and what platforms that are working for you, we can start looking at what your rate card looks like, and what you're charging for all your digital assets you're producing, whether they be Facebook posts, Facebook videos, Instagram stories, Snapchat, tweets, Instagrams, anything that you're producing, anything that you can name can be sold. And once anything can be named, can be sold, you need to put a price to it. And so that's where we come in and start putting in a bit of a line in the sand for, hey, this is what we can sell them for, which then starts working with your commercial team so they can then put those building blocks. So then that becomes sort of what we're doing with Sports Geek campaigns in campaign development, helping your commercial team develop campaigns to drive more revenue. So both by bringing in the content that you're currently producing, but then also what campaigns can we do to bring in engagement? Can we bring in leads? Can we bring in people into the store? So that's another part of the business that we're doing, where we're working with, in this case, Tradable Bits with Sports Geek campaigns to roll out killer campaigns for your sponsors. So we do a lot of that work. A lot of work with the data and ticketing teams around data acquisition, whether it's a campaign to drive new leads for ticketing and season tickets, or specific ticketing campaigns, just pretty much driving cheeks in the seats. And so they can either be with content campaigns, weaved in with some paid work around Facebook ads and the like, or doing something a bit more unique, like building out a chatbot that gives a bit more information to fans potentially looking at season ticket renewals, or understanding what a membership might entail, which we did recently with the Sydney Roosters. So we're doing a bit of bot building. We're building a few at the moment, which once they're released, I'll let you know about them. And then obviously, because I've done a bit of podcasting, I'm helping a few people understand how they can get into the podcasting game, the tools, the tech behind it, but then also how to go about promoting a podcast. So they're just a few of the ways that myself and the Sports Geek team behind me can help you and your team, whether your team is nearby in Melbourne, where I am, anywhere in Australia, or pretty much anywhere in the world. The good thing about the internet is that I can work with anybody. And so if it's as simple as, hey, I just want to have a phone call to see how we can work together, more than happy to do that. Either reach out to me, Sean, at sportsgeekhq.com, or just book a phone call. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call. Just tell me that you listen to the podcast and what you want to talk about, and I'm happy to. Until next week, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Join over 1,000 sports business executives in Sports Biz Slack. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Slack. Please share your fave episodes of Sports Geek on LinkedIn. Be sure to tag Sean Callanan.
Go to sportsgeekhq.com for more sports digital marketing resources.
Want to chat with Sean? Book a time for a call. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call.